People who legally died for a few minutes and came back, what was it like? Doctor here, just want to point out something. Might seem like nitpicking, but it's important for people's perception and understanding. Death is a complicated thing. Your heart stopping doesn't make you legally dead. Your heart can go into what we call non-perfuming rhythms, which is fancy talk for your heart isn't pumping blood. Asystole, where the heart stops completely, is one of those rhythms, but there are others. We do CPR on these patients for the most part, and they are not dead until we stop doing CPR and decide that they cannot be saved. Then we pronounce them legally dead. Someone can also be pronounced legally dead if they have no brain function, which has many complicated steps to determine. I have never seen someone be pronounced dead and make a meaningful recovery. I don't think it's really described as happening in the literature either in recent history. To clarify, this is not talking about patients who we tell the family they will likely die. TL, Dr. Heart stopping doesn't make you legally dead. People who are legally dead don't come back. My mom had open heart surgery not too long ago and was technically dead for the surgery since no blood was being pumped through her heart. She said it was almost like in the movies where she was in an all-white room and actually got to talk with her dad who passed away 20 years ago. My brother's heart stopped for several minutes and he had a very vivid experience. It happened in a university classroom. He lost consciousness, and then he woke up in a building with impossibly tall windows, like 100 or more, and it was brilliantly sunny outside. That was his first clue that he wasn't in the same place, since it was cloudy and raining in his hometown. He told me that he could smell bread baking. He strolled down the hall, which he found odd, because just a few minutes prior he was feeling very weak and sick. He looked around, and asked himself, am I in heaven? And then he said a strange apparition appeared. He said it was a swarm of thousands and thousands of points of light. The apparition spoke, and asked my brother, can you see me now? That's when my brother knew it was God. About 10 years prior to that he had a philosophical argument with a friend about the existence of God, and one of my brother's arguments was you can't even see God. So my brother, knowing he was indeed in heaven, had a long discussion with God about all sorts of earthly scientific mysteries. My brother was suddenly endowed with profound knowledge of how everything worked and why. Then God asked him, so, do you want to stay? My brother thought about it and asked if he could return to earth, but keep all the new knowledge. God said nope, you can return, but the knowledge stays here. He thought about it and said he wanted to come back to life. He suddenly found himself in the hospital. He was trying desperately to remember some of the things that he learned while in heaven. And for a little while, he did. But after the medications, the sleep, the painkillers, he forgot it all. But he never forgot the experience. I fell down the stairs and hit my head bad enough to knock me out for almost a minute, during which my jaw locked and according to those around me, I stopped breathing. Darkness, outdoor corridor made of blue bricks and golden sunlight shining on the vines covering the walls. I saw a short deer with eyes that didn't fit a deer. 4 years later I saw that same deer in a national park in Wisconsin. Eyes were not fitting their frame and somehow I was glazed over. A type of illness according to the guy who was showing me around. I am pretty sure I'll see the blue corridor one day as well. I'm not sure if I was legally dead or not, but early 2020 I got in a really, really bad car wreck. Like miracle to even be alive bad. I was alert and conscious for the entire process of them cutting me out of the car, however I was very, very tired. I was impaled and when they finally got me loose I started losing a lot of blood. In the helicopter I went from being alert to just barely hanging on real quick. When we arrived at the hospital I looked at the nurse who was next to my stretcher and I remember asking, am I at the hospital? He said yes and I just let go. I had been hanging on for nearly 2 hours at this point and I knew that I was in capable hands now. So in the spirit of trust and faith I closed my eyes. To this day I have no clue how long I was out, but I remember what I experienced. The entire time I felt like I was falling. At first it was a slow drift but it steadily sped up. And the entire time I fell I was remembering my whole life. It was like an instant replay right up until the moment that guy drove into me. And then I was falling really fast. And all I could hear was screaming. But I realized I was hearing me screaming. I finally stopped falling, there's no more screaming, and then I just hear Peachy Ging, what's your date of birth? And I open my eyes. I'm in the Tiku and I'm alive. It was such a weird eerie feeling. I will never forget the face of that nurse. Edited for spelling.
With